Welcome to the next program. This is part 2 of the frog application in Scratch. I'm going to go to my stuff. I'm going to open up my frog project that I saved 22 hours ago. And I'm going to test it just to see that we have the frog sticking his tongue out and the spring peepers in the background. Then I'm going to go to see inside. Okay, I'm going to create a new sprite. So I go down here and I hit the cat face icon and I go to animals. I go down and I get this Hippo 1 costume that two has two costumes, and it makes it look like it's flying. He's got one with his wings up and one, so if I go back and forth, it'll look like she's flying. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call this one Amy, and I'm going to set the size to 32. And then I'm going to create a local variable. So I'm going to go to code and I'm going to create two variables. One is going to be I'm going to click on variables, and all programming languages have variables, but they have different ways of handling it. I'm going to call one called my name, and it's going to be for this sprite only. And I'm going to create a second variable. I'm going to click on the make a variable, and I'm going to call this fly to eat. So what happens? I'm going to now get a green flag button here. And when I start the program, I want the hippo fly to go any place somewhere on the top of the screen at different positions of X and Y. So I'm going to need a go-to block. I'm going to need a go-to block. But instead of giving an exact number, I'm going to use pick random again. I'm going to get two pick randoms, and I'm going to first tell it to go from, let's see, minus 220 to plus 220. Minus 220 is almost all the way on the left, and plus 220 is almost all the way on the right. And so that tells it to go somewhere from around here to here, but it doesn't tell you how far up and down to do it. Now, for the Y position, which is the up and down, I'm going to pick numbers. What did I choose? 70 to 160. 70 to 160. So 0 is right in the middle. That's like the 50-yard line. And so 70 is about halfway up, and 160 is almost all the way up to the top. I think I lost my pick random. I'm going to have to make this a little smaller. Okay. So this is going to be 70 to 160. All right. I'll make it a little bit bigger. So I'm telling it to go from minus 220 to plus 220x and y 70 to 160. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set rotation style to all around. And I'm going to need a forever block. And this is going to be a very simple forever block. I'm going to tell it to, let's see what I'm going to wait. Wait, I don't know, 0.12 seconds. And the looks is going to be next costume. So when I do this, you see it's flapping its wings. And every time I hit the start button, it goes to a different position. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is make it buzz around. So the way I do that is I'm going to have it move, and I'm going to use random again. So I'm going to go to motion, and I'm going to do a change X and change Y. And again, I like to use these random numbers because it gives it a more realistic effect. So if I use -5 to +5, it's going to move a little bit to the left or right, a small amount, but a different amount each time. And if I use y -5 to +5, it's going to move a little bit up and down. So let's see what happens when I put it here. You notice it's kind of buzzing around like a fly. So this is good. And if I click it again, it goes to a different position and buzzes around. Okay. The next thing I want it to do is I want it to point toward the frog because I want the hippo fly to point toward the frog. Oh, I never gave the frog a name. So I'm going to change this to frog. And then I go to the frog sprite and give the frog a name. Then I go back to the hippo fly. Now it says point to the frog, and I want it to move 3 steps. We'll do a file save now. Pull this up here. Take this slider, go there to the top and say file save now. Now what happens? Well, I don't want it to do that. I don't want it to point down. So maybe I should say point in direction 90 degrees. And let's try that. Okay, so this is what I want. So I changed my mind because I wanted to point in direction 90 degrees, which means it's pointing left and right. And then it's going to move toward the frog a little bit each time, but it is flapping its wings and it's buzzing around. So it's going to get closer and closer to the frog. Okay, so now we want to have the code for the frog to eat the fly, or the hippo fly. But the way we do this is actually it's the fly who decides to get eaten. So if we go into our control block and we say if, and we're going to need an operator. Okay. This thing with the pointy thing going to the left means if the thing on the left is smaller or less than the thing on the right, that's a mathematical less than sign. So I think we're going to go to sensing, and we want to get the distance to the frog. Okay, so I'm going to drop in this distance to mouse pointer, and I'm going to change it to frog. So if it gets closer than 25, I want the hippo fly to do certain things. And the first thing I'm going to do is, this is something new. I'm going to go to events, and I'm going to have the hippo fly send a message. It actually is called a broadcast message, and it's going to be a new message. So you can give a message any name, and this is how programs communicate to each other, or sprites. And the message is going to be eat fly. Okay. And then it's going to be um, the next thing I'm going to need is I'm going to go to looks, and I'm going to say hide the fly. So the fly is going to disappear because we're going to make it invisible. And then finally, we're going to go to control and we're going to say stop. But we don't want to stop everything. We just want to say stop this script. Do a file, save now. So this is what it's going to look like, that the fly is going to get eaten, the hippo fly. All right. Since we made the fly disappear, when we start it again, we want to make it so you can see the fly. So we're going to have to go back to looks. And since when we started, all the flies might have been eaten, we're going to put a show block. Okay. Now I've got these two variables and they're out here. Sometimes you want to see the variables. Sometimes you don't. In this case, I don't. And the next thing I'm going to do is set fly to eat equals my name. But we haven't set my name, so we're going to have to put a set block up here. We're going to set my name to Amy. I just want to make it big enough so that you can see everything. All right, so we'll start here, and you can pause it and copy the code. And then after you've copied the code, you can start it again, and I'll move it down here, and you can see the bottom. I can make it smaller, but sometimes it's hard to read in the video. And I just lost I got it detached. So I want to make sure it's big enough that you can see it. And then I'll do a file, save now. Okay, I'm going to stop this lesson because this should be enough for you to get the next step. And just to make sure, we'll test it one more time. Okay. So again, here's the top of the code. You can pause it and copy it. And once you've copied it, you can start the video, move down here. Okay, there are a few more things that I'm going to put in this script. All right, one thing is I'm going to go to the events and I'm going to put another when green flag, and I'm going to put another loop, another forever loop, and I'm going to say um, I'm going to go to looks and I'm going to say my name. I'm going to go to variables. Let's make it smaller. Okay. So below the big block of code, we're going to have a second block of code. And I'm going to say my name for 0 point something like 8 seconds. And then I'm going to go to control and I'm going to say wait for, I don't know, 1 second. And I'll save this. So this is the next block of code. Save now, and then I'll try starting it. Okay, so instead of just saying its name, I'll make it a little more interesting and I'll introduce a new block. Now this is going to be the join block. See where it says here, join Apple Banana, and we're going to say my, well, let's say I'm Amy. Save this. Okay. All right. This is the program for the second part. This is the second step. I'm going to end the lesson now, and you can go back and you can look at this code, pause it, copy it, and I'll see you in the next lesson.